Hello, welcome to Comfy Cozy Up. So today I'm going to be doing my February wrap up, and based on how January went, it's a big difference. I did well in February. I completed 7 books and almost halfway through an 8th book. So after I tallied up, I realized I didn't quite get to the 8, but I did complete 7. Now, most of these books are books that I wanted to read that wasn't on my TBR, and then I have 2 new releases that I was able to get through. Now, the first book I read was Beverly Jenkins' Breathless, and I absolutely love this book. It was definitely gave me the wrap up I needed for the first in the series. This is her Old West series, and in the first book you have Edie and Ryan, and in Edie's nieces, 2 of her nieces. So this is a continuation of that family story, and this book focused on one of the nieces. And it started out really dealing with an issue I had when I had reviewed Forbidden in 2016 on my blog. At the end, I made a comment where I thought something was a little, and it started addressing that. So I was very much happy, and I was like, okay, it makes sense. And this one is 15 years after. There's so much growth, but the romance was there. I found myself laughing at various scenes. They were pretty much very sarcastic, and the couple, they just were perfect match for each other. But it definitely ended where there was some unresolved issue, which I know I would definitely have to read Tempest to find out certain things that happened in this book. The next one is Unforgivable Love by Sophona Scott. And guys, we had a live chat last night. I would definitely link it in the description bar. Dee Dee hosted. This was her read-along for Read So Lit this year, and I enjoyed it. It was a retelling of Dangerous Liaison. And what I liked about this is, even though the character was flawed and messy, it was very entertaining. It brought up questions. It was a nice discussion book. And Sophia Scott definitely came through, and she talked to us for a while, and we were able to ask her questions and how she felt, or what motivated her, or what inspired her to write certain things about this, especially for retelling, and how it was the writing was totally different from the original. If you haven't seen it, please go check it out. It was a great experience, and I was so happy to be a part of it. So yeah. The next book that I read was from Nia Forster, and it's called Snowflakes. And I did a review on that, so I won't talk much about that. I will just link it down the bottom. But I loved it. It is a romance story that really tackles our relationship with our parents, and how they influence us as an adult, and how you can have similar experience with someone else, but totally different reaction to it, and how it molds you as an adult. And in this story, we have 2 unlikely characters who bonded over a holiday where everyone went home for school. They're seniors in college, and things kind of became more of a friendship and led to something else. But they needed each other. They needed to be able to somewhat be each other's mirror of what they're dealing with. And I loved it. It is definitely a chill book, and I really thought about a lot of things that was happening when you think about your parents, and how were they ever intimate in front of you? Do you grow up seeing that or not seeing it? And how did you learn of intimacy with someone else as an adult, when you never seen it as a kid? So there's a lot of things about it, but I'm going to leave my review down the bottom. Now, the next one is The Poet X, and I knew I was going to like this. I don't know why, maybe because I'm a poet girl. I love poetry. But what I would say is, it's written in verse, and There's so many things I liked about this book. It gives me that complicated relationship sometimes that a daughter and a mother has. You know, the expectation that your mother may have for you that you're not quite living up to, and how that can make your relationship very complicated. And you want to fly, you want to be your own, and follow your own path, and without feeling like you have to struggle with your mother's wishes or what she desire of you for the future. I love this. It is one of those books that you wish you had the older version, where if these characters could see themselves older, because sometimes when you're young you don't see it. When you get older, you understand better why your parents are the way they are towards you, and what they wanted from you as a kid, and why, versus when you're young you don't see it. I talked about in the blog how I was one of those kids that couldn't wait to get out of my parents' house, and now I see my parents all the time. I'm always packing my bag and going there, and growing up I would have never see that. I would always think I would want to run away from them, but it's a beautiful story. It has a lot of message. I think it's great for young kids. It is a YA, and it is a very the writing was very good. The verse was short, but they had some really good messages and things that I feel like a lot of young kids can really learn from this book. It flows real good. The flow was, yes, I was here for this. The next book that I read was from Danielle Allen. Now, Danielle Allen can't do me any wrong right now. I just feel like I get it. I get her books. They're so relatable. They're so interesting. Even though this book is called I can't remember. Telltale. And it is based on Edgar Allan Poe short story. I was really weary of how it was going to connect, but it connected. Now, it is a romance, not a horror, but she has a way of putting messages in stories that are supposed to be just simply romance, but there's still that message that she wants her audience to get. And in this story, you get it. You get how love, trust, and loyalty, and friendship, and how much you can, that whole circle can be complicated when your heart is involved. And you have a circle of three individuals. Is a girl, her brother, and his best friend, who's also her best friend, and they grew up together. And somehow she fell for the best friend, but she fought it for 12 years. And as she's fighting, the love that she has is kind of eating her slowly. And towards the main highlight of it, there's a bracelet that came into the picture, and it symbolized a lot of things. So I'm going to leave it at that, because I think this is one of those where you just have to read it and take from it what you feel. So that's why I'm going to leave it at that one. Now, the next book on my list, it's a complicated feeling I have for this. It took me a while to even read it, and that is An Unkindness of Ghosts. Now, this is a sci-fi. It is dystopian, where we have these people who are on a ship, and they're out there. And what's happening is they're levels. There's class level on the ship, and then you have the lower deck of people. There are usually the workers. They're somewhat treated like slaves, to be honest. They have this curfew. If they need to be a part of another, they need to go to a part of another area, they have to get a pass. They're mistreated, But in this story, it's focused on the women, and the women seem to be the ones that are treated the worst. They are pretty much abused and tortured at times. And we have a main character, Aster, and she is this brilliant woman. She is young. She doesn't really know a lot about her past, her family, her roots. And she somehow always finds things to remedy things. Where someone's sick or something's happened, she'll come up with these things. She also is an assistant for a surgeon. And he is mainly the only character really that you kind of felt like he was there for the women, mainly her, but at times had to flip and be brutal just to fit into that society. Now, I do like story like this where you get characters who are finding out who they are, who are fighters and trying to beat the odds. However, I didn't care for the ending. I just didn't think, it just felt like it was a lose-lose situation, and I just didn't get why it had to end like this. There's like this subtle message in the end, and I've read it twice, trying to really like be okay with the ending. I just wasn't okay with the ending, so it kind of left me sad. I felt sad after reading this, and I don't like books that make me feel sad in a way where I'm borderline upset. And this is what this book did to me, and I just was not for it in terms of that. And I gave it a 3-star. It is great in a lot of areas, and it gave me flashback of other books that I've read where women were mistreated and had to fight. But it didn't give me the ending of those other books that were great, that had that somewhat tragic, but still had that positive or hopeful ending. This didn't do it for me. So the next book that I read was my first urban fiction in years, and this was Ethic. And this is oh my god, this Ethic is a character that is just this bad boy. He lived a life of crime, grew wealth from it, and now somewhat don't want to be a part of it, but still is respected in the street. So now he's in the suburban life with his 2 daughters and a 3rd daughter that he inherited after her parents died. And being a father, you want to protect your children, and in this case he wanted to protect the teenager, and she is going to 18, so she thinks she knows it all. She thinks she's being restricted, can't do what she really wants to do, not realizing that there's danger out there because of who she is and who she is associated with as far as him. And he has enemies and people who will do something to her for him. Needless to say, she didn't listen, and something horrible happens to her, and that put him back out there doing things that he thought he left behind. And that also led to him doing something horrible that he is having to live with, where there's regrets. But there's a little romance that came, and it wasn't a real romance. As you're reading this, you're thinking, oh, this is so wrong. But then you're thinking, oh, I like them together. But you knew somehow when the things are revealed that this is going to end in disaster. And it ended on a cliffhanger, so you have to read the second one. And I have the second one. I haven't started yet, but I was surprised that I liked this, because a lot of times in urban fiction I find that the stories all seem the same, like, oh god, I heard this one before. But this one was a different take, and I did like the twist that they put in there, even though it was a horrible twist in terms of if in real life this would just be heartbreaking. But it's a nice way. And this author, apparently I have read stuff from her, because she used to write with her husband, and I wasn't sure, I just didn't remember her name. And when I posted something on Instagram, someone reminded me, yes, she used to write with her husband. And I found 2 of the books. I do have 2 of the books on my bookcase. of her and her husband, of books I actually read, and I remember liking them. So I'm kind of like happy that she still stayed around and still writes urban fiction and has a strong fan base, because this, I believe there's 5 books in this series, and when I looked it up, there were a lot of ratings and she has a lot of fans still that reads these books. So I was happy for her and with that. So yeah, I will continue with Ethics. It surprised me. It's an urban fiction I'll definitely recommend if you're looking for crime thriller that has a little edge to it. Yeah. Now the next book I didn't finish, and that is An Orchestra of Minority, and this one I am hooked. It has magical realism in it. It is very much something I'm going to review when I'm done. I feel like it's a different kind of book. It is not your typical book and books that I read, but I just find it very interesting, and it's very different. If you're not a fan of magical realism, this is not going to be for you. It is an African story, and it is surrounding a lot of African folktale, and there's a lot of symbolism to birds, to chickens. You know, you see that here, and there are some cruelty in this book. So if a person, you might be a little not, you know, but it's not it's a few times where it was, but it wasn't enough where I was turned off by the book. But I would say I can't wait to finish. It is a chunky, and the font is not, it's not big. So it is a little dense for me, but I'm definitely going to finish it. And as soon as I finish, I'm going to review it. Right now, it's giving me a strong 4, but we'll see as it goes on how they tie up the story. But it's a lot of tragedy in this so far. A lot of moments where I'm like, Lord, crosses about a man. And I'm reading this, but I'll talk about it later. So that is it, guys. Thanks for watching, and have a good day.